If you are over 60 and your knees are catching, your hips are stiffening, and the hand you put on the kitchen counter to stand up was not there last year, please listen to me for the next 15 minutes. The answer to why your joints are getting worse, even though you eat clean and walk every day, is not in another fish oil bottle. It is not in another doctor's prescription. The answer is sitting in the coffee cup you already pour every morning. You are just missing one root, one timing shift, and one thing your body stopped making after 60 that nobody has told you about. By the end of this video, you will know all three. My name is Camilla Hayes. For 35 years, I have served the women of these South Carolina foothills the way my grandmother served them and her mother before her, going back 4 generations. I have sat with over 12,000 women, most of them past 60, and I have watched the same pattern unfold so many times I can name it before they finish telling me. Stiff knees, hips that lock when they stand, the grandbaby they cannot carry on the same hip for more than 2 minutes, the garden they used to kneel in that they now stand at the edge of. If that is you, you are not wearing out, my friend. You are missing something, and I am going to tell you exactly what. My grandmother used to sit me at her kitchen table with her hands wrapped around a tin cup, and she would tell me that all sickness begins in the belly. Every fire in the body, she said, gets its kindling there. The old ones knew this long before any laboratory put a name on it. Now the research has finally caught up. The gut runs your immune system, your inflammation, your sleep, and yes, my friend, your joints. But here is what nobody told you. After the age of 60, the beneficial bacteria in your gut drop by roughly 50%. Half of them are simply gone. And once they are gone, the fire underneath everything starts smoldering year after year until one morning you cannot kneel down to pull a weed without grabbing the porch rail. We will come back to that 50% in a few minutes because it is the most important number in this entire video. Hold on to it. My grandmother kept a small brown jar on the windowsill above her sink. Inside, it was the root I am about to tell you about. Her sister kept the same jar. Her mother kept the same jar. In 4 generations of the women in our family, not one of us has ever needed a knee replacement, and my own mother gardened on her hands and knees until she was 86. The root is turmeric, but before you write it off because you have heard of turmeric, please stay with me, because 9 out of 10 women who try turmeric quit within 3 months and tell me it did not work. They were right, it did not work, and it is because they were missing the part I am about to share. Get this part wrong and you are pouring water into a cup with a hole in the bottom. Here is the part. Turmeric contains a compound called curcumin, and curcumin on its own is barely absorbed by the body. You can take a teaspoon every morning for a year and almost none of it makes it into your bloodstream. Curcumin needs 2 partners to enter the body. It needs a fat and it needs black pepper. The black pepper contains a compound called piperine, and piperine increases curcumin absorption by about 2,000%. You read that right, 2,000. Without the pepper, the cup leaks. With the pepper, the cup holds. Researchers at the University of Georgia followed 1,200 adults over 60 for 6 months and found a 47% drop in their inflammation markers using exactly this combination. The grandmothers in our hollow only smiled when that paper came out. They had been watching it work for 100 years. Now let me tell you what is actually happening in your joints, because if you understand the fire, you will understand why this matters. Your cartilage is not just wearing down from use. The old folks in our hollow used to call it dry bone disease, and they were closer to the truth than most modern textbooks. What is happening is a slow internal fire. The medical word is chronic low-grade inflammation, and it works the way rust works on an old iron skillet. It does not eat through in a day. It eats through quietly, year after year, until one morning the pan gives way. By the time you are 60, that fire has been burning in your joints for 15, sometimes 20 years. The over-the-counter creams numb the surface, but do nothing for the fire underneath. The pills your doctor offers cool the fire for a few hours, but your liver pays the bill later. Here is why this gets harder after 60. Your body's own anti-inflammatory production drops by about 65% between the ages of 50 and 70. The natural fire extinguishers your body made on its own when you were 40 are simply not coming anymore. You have to bring them in from the outside, through your kitchen, through your cup. And remember the 50% gut bacteria number I asked you to hold on to? That is the second piece of this. The bacteria that used to keep your inflammation quiet are also gone. So the fire grows from two directions at once, and most of the women who come to see me are only fighting it from one side. We will fix that, but first the cup. Let me tell you about Beatrice from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. 73 years old, retired school teacher, and she had given up gardening 12 years before she came to me. She had been taking a turmeric capsule from the health food store for 3 years with no improvement, and she had decided turmeric simply did not work for her body. We did not throw the turmeric out. We changed the cup. Fresh ground turmeric stirred into hot coffee, a pinch of cracked black pepper, a teaspoon of coconut oil, taken 90 minutes after she woke up instead of the moment her feet hit the floor. By week 8, Beatrice was pulling weeds in her side yard for 40 minutes at a stretch. But here is what she told me at week 16, and this is the part I want you to pay close attention to. The pain in her knees had dropped about 62% on her doctor's pain scale. 62. Real progress. But there was a stubborn last layer she could not get past. Stiffness in the morning, the first hour out of bed. We added one more thing to her routine, the missing piece I will tell you about in a moment, and that final layer fell away too. By week 20, she wrote me a letter that is still on my desk. It said, "Camilla, I found my mornings again." That was all she wrote. We will come back to what we added because it is the answer to the 50%. Here is exactly how to make the cup, and please write this down or come back to this part later. Brew your coffee the way you usually do. While it is still steaming, stir in 1/2 teaspoon of high-quality turmeric powder. Then a small pinch of freshly cracked black pepper, just enough that you can almost not taste it. Then 1 teaspoon of coconut oil or a tablespoon of full-fat coconut milk or grass-fed cream. The fat is not optional, my friend. The fat is what carries the curcumin across the gut wall. Without it, the pepper has nothing to escort. Stir well, drink it warm slowly before you eat anything else. And please speak to your doctor before you start, especially if you are on blood thinners, because turmeric does affect clotting. That conversation matters. But the cup is only half the story. The other half is when you drink it. Most women drink their coffee within 10 minutes of waking. This is the single most damaging habit I see in women over 60, and almost no one talks about it. When you wake up, your cortisol, your body's main stress hormone, is already at its highest natural peak of the day. Cortisol is also one of the most powerful inflammation drivers in the body. When you drink coffee, on top of that cortisol peak, you double the inflammatory load on your joints, your gut, and your nervous system before you have even eaten breakfast. Researchers at the University of North Carolina followed 2,000 adults over 50 for 9 years and found that the timing of the first cup predicted joint inflammation more accurately than the amount of coffee. The amount did not matter. The timing did. The old ones in our hollow nodded when they heard. They had been waking with the sun, drinking warm water with lemon first, and saving their coffee for 90 minutes later for as long as anyone could remember. So here is what you do. When your feet hit the floor, drink 1 full glass of warm water with the juice of half a lemon squeezed into it. Sit with it. Let your cortisol come down naturally. Then, 90 minutes later, prepare your turmeric coffee the way I just described. Your body will absorb 3 times more of the curcumin this way. Eleanor from Savannah, Georgia, 68 years old, retired nurse, came to me because she had stopped going to her grandchildren's school events. The pain made sitting through a concert impossible. We did not change a single ingredient in her cup. We only moved it 90 minutes later. By week 10, her morning stiffness had dropped 58%, and she sat through her granddaughter's whole spring concert without standing up to stretch one time. She had been waiting 4 years for that. But Eleanor, like Beatrice, hit a wall. The kind of wall almost every woman over 60 hits, no matter how perfectly she does the cup and the timing. And here is where I have to be honest with you, my friend, because if I left this video right here, you would do everything I just told you, and you would get maybe 70% of the way home, and you would wonder why the last 30% will not lift. The reason is the 50%. Remember the gut bacteria number I asked you to hold on to? After 60, half of those bacteria are gone, and your body cannot grow them back on its own. It is not a question of eating right or walking enough. The bacteria that used to live in your gut, the ones that used to make the postbiotic compounds that quieted your inflammation, they are not there anymore, and your body has lost the ability to replace them at the rate it once could. This is the part of aging that nobody warns you about, and it is the reason turmeric, lemon water, and timing get so many of my women most of the way better, but never all the way. For years, I tried to solve this with the foods my grandmother used: sauerkraut, kefir, bone broth. They helped. They helped a great deal. But for the women in their 70s and 80s, the women I serve every week, the foods alone could not rebuild what 50 years of life had eroded. So I went looking. I read studies, I tried supplements. Most of them were probiotics alone, which is like throwing seeds onto bare dirt and walking away. A probiotic without prebiotic fiber to feed it and without postbiotic compounds to do the actual healing work is just a seed in the wrong soil. My grandmother would have called it lazy medicine. You need the seed, the soil, and the fruit, all three. What I finally landed on after years of searching is called BoochBod. I do not say that lightly, and I do not say it often. BoochBod is a kombucha gummy that brings the seed, the soil, and the fruit together in one. It contains lactospore, a clinically studied probiotic strain that survives long enough to actually colonize. It contains the prebiotic fiber those bacteria need to feed on. And it contains a postbiotic called postbiotics LM1004, which is the actual healing compound the bacteria produce when they are well fed. It also has dandelion root and slippery elm in it, which my grandmother kept in her own kitchen for the same purpose. Over 30,000 people are already using it, and the women I have put on it are the reason Beatrice's last 30% finally lifted, and Eleanor's morning stiffness disappeared completely by week 14. It is a gummy, my friend, not a pill. And I want you to hear why that matters, because it is not a small thing. Most of the women I sit with cannot stand swallowing one more capsule. They have a row of pill bottles on the kitchen counter that already feel like a sentence. A gummy in the morning after the lemon water before the turmeric coffee feels like a small kindness to yourself. It feels like the candy your grandmother used to keep in a tin. It does not feel like medicine. And the women who switch to it tell me they actually take it every day, which is the only thing that matters, because consistency is what rebuilds the gut, not intensity. The link to BoochBod is in the description of this video. They offer a 60-day money-back guarantee, which means if it is not working for you by week 8, you send it back and they refund you, no questions. I would not put my name on something without that guarantee, because I have seen too many women over 60 burned by supplement companies that take the money and disappear. 60 days is enough time for the gut to begin rebuilding, and enough time for you to feel the difference in your knees, your hips, and your mornings. Please speak to your doctor before starting any supplement. If you are still with me, my friend, would you tap subscribe? It costs you nothing. It helps me reach the women in their 60s and 70s who are quietly suffering and do not know there is another way. That is all I am after, and it means the world to me. Now, before we close, let me tell you the 3 mistakes I see women make most often with all of this. Because if you avoid these 3, you will not have to come find me again. The first mistake: they give up at 6 weeks. Cartilage is the slowest tissue in your body to rebuild, and the gut takes time too. It can be 90 days before you feel a real shift, and 4 to 6 months before the change is settled. Most women quit at 6 weeks and never see what was waiting for them at 12. Please, my friends, see this through. The body heals through repetition, not through bursts. The second mistake: they drink the coffee with white sugar. White sugar in your morning cup is one of the most powerful inflammation drivers there is. You can put all the turmeric in the world into that cup and the sugar will undo most of it before noon. If you need sweetness, use a small amount of raw honey or stevia. The third mistake, they try to do all of this without the foundation. They do the turmeric, they do the timing, they do the lemon water, and they wonder why the last layer of stiffness will not move. It will not move because the gut bacteria that used to quiet that last layer are gone, and they are not coming back from food alone after 60. The seed, the soil, and the fruit have to be brought back in. That is what BoochBod does, and that is the piece I held back until now because I wanted you to understand why before I told you the what. My grandmother used to say, when a woman tells me her body is wearing out, I tell her her body is just waiting to be remembered. Your joints have been carrying you for 60, 70, 80 years. They do not need to be replaced. They need to be fed the things they have been hungry for. Picture yourself kneeling in your own garden again, fingers in the dirt, getting back up without the porch rail. Picture yourself walking your oldest grandchild to school with no thought given to your knees. Those mornings are not behind you, my friend. It is never too late. The link to BoochBod is in the description with the 60-day guarantee. That is the one thing I want you to do today, not 5 things. 1. Tap that link, take a look, and decide for yourself. Until next time, take good care of yourself.